welcome back. Last time we covered creating a calendar, exporting that calendar to PDF. Today I want to go over sorting. So on the custom ribbon, I've got sort by next, by age, by family, month, and a clear sort button. So if I click sort by next, I'm going to get the next birthday coming up, and these arrows point down indicating that I'm going closest to furthest away, smallest to largest. If I click it again, I get largest to smallest, and the arrows point up. If I click sort by age, I get largest to smallest, age on next birthday, so oldest to youngest. Click it again, and I get youngest to oldest. Sort by family, I've got this column here that I added a family grouping just so I can group the families together. And if I click it again, I get Z to A. Sort by month, I get January birthdays down to December. Click it again, and I get December to January. And then clear sort, I sort by last name and then first name, and all of the arrows go away. So let's go ahead and jump into the code, and remember to get into the code window, you can go to the developer tab. If you don't see the developer tab, you can look at this video up here to explain how to put the developer tab on, and I can click on Visual Basic, or I can hit Alt F11 to get into the code window. So the first thing I want to point out, I've got 4 public variables. They're Boolean. I've got sort age, family, month, and next. By defining public variables, I can access these from anywhere in the code. And so let's go down, and we're going to look at sort by age first. So the first thing, I've defined a my sort order as variant, and I've turned the screen updating to false, and that just makes it a little cleaner when you're sorting the code. So let's go ahead and run this. First thing it's going to do is clear the sort arrows, and we'll come back to that in a minute. And it looks at the sort age variable, and if it's false, it sets the sort order to XL ascending. If it's true, it sets it to descending, and then it selects the birthday sheet. It uses the auto filter sort fields and clears those, and then it uses the same auto filter sort fields, add to, and uses the key in cell D5. D5 is the first birth date in the date of birth column. The sort on uses values. The sort order uses the variable that we defined, the my sort order. Data option is a normal sort. And then it goes through the worksheet auto filter sort. Tells it that I do have a header. I don't want to match case, so uppercase, lowercase. My orientation is top to bottom rather than left to right. Sort method, XL pin yin. No idea what that means. And then I apply the sort. Then it calls the bold alternating rows. It loops through the range with data in it. If that row is odd, it sets the fonts to bold. If it's even, it sets it to not bold. And then returns to the range that we left from. So now we're going to look at the arrows. So it's going to go to G4, which is G4 is the age on next birthday. And it's going to look at the left 1 character of that cell. And if it is this E with an accent, it's going to get rid of it. Or if it's the E with a caret top, it's going to get rid of it. And it's going to do that by taking the value in cell G4 and looking at the right characters and the length of the data in that cell -1. So it's going to take everything going from the right and take everything except for the first character. And then it's going to look at the sort age. If it's true, it's going to set it to false. And it's going to add an E with an accent into the beginning of cell G4. In this case, it's false, so it turns sort age to true, and then sets cell G4 to this E with a caret top, and the rest of the value in E4. Now, where did I come up with that E accent and E caret top? So let's go ahead and stop this code. Clear all of the breakpoints up to that point. And let's go back into the Excel sheet. So I have two columns here. I've got a character number starting at 33 and going to 255. I've got a normal font, which in this case is just Arial 28 to make it visible. And then I've got the same character in Wingding's font. And you see these little icons. So if I go down to character 233, I've got the E with the accent, and in Wingdings, that's an up pointing bold arrow. And 234, E with the caret top is a bold arrow pointing down when I convert that to Wingdings. So now that I've set the first character in that cell as E with the caret top on top, I'm going to go into that cell and take the first characters, so characters starting at 1 and length 1, and I'm going to change that font to Wingdings bold red. And I'm going to take everything else in that cell, so G4 characters starting at 2, and the length is the length of the data that's in there, and I'm going to set that to Arial. And now I get my arrow pointing down. If I click it again, I get the E with the accent, and then I change that font to Wingdings bold red and change the rest of it to Arial, and I get an up pointing arrow. Now the other sort by age, sort by next, sort by family, sort by month, those do the same thing. The only difference in the lines of code is where my header cell is. So if I look at sort by family, it's going to add keys to K5, C5, and A5. So K is the family, C is the last name, A is the first name. So if I sort by family, I get Arnie's family, and then it's sorted by last name, first name within that family grouping. Now, clear sort, the only thing that does is loop through all of the header cells, looks for those E accent or E caret top at the beginning, clears them out, and then sorts by last name, first name. First thing it's going to do is determine what cell you're already on. It's going to set the range to the range with data in it, turn screen updating off, set all of the public variables to false. It's going to call the clear sort arrow, and all that does is looks through row A from A to K, checks if that first character is E accent or E caret top and gets rid of it if it is, and sets the font to Arial bold 12. And then in this instance, I'm using just the range sort. I'm giving it 2 keys, cell C4 and A4, so it'll sort by last name and first name, and then applies that sort, and then calls the bold alternate row, which is just going to look at the row number. If it's odd, make it bold. If it's not, make it not bold. And then return back to my beginning cell. So if you noticed, as I select different cells in the data range, that cell turns yellow. If I select a range of data, those turn yellow. And now let's go over how we make that change to yellow on the selected cell. I'm going to jump into the code window, and I'm going to go into the birthdays sheet, and I have a worksheet selection change event. The selection change event fires anytime your selection area changes, and it captures that as a target range. So I've defined 2 different variables. I've got last row and last column. Last row looks at range A65536, come up, and then offset that by 5 rows. So it's looking at the last row with data in it, and then adding 5 rows to that. The last column goes A4 end to the right, so it goes to cell A4 and goes all the way to the right to the last column with data in it. And now we're looking at the target, which is the selection on the sheet, target row. And if that target row is anywhere between 5 and the last row, we look at the target column. And if the target column is anywhere from 1 to the last column, then set everything in that range, so range A5 to the last row with data, so A65536, end XL up, offset 6 rows and 10 columns, and change that color index to minus 4142, which is just white. And then change the target interior color to yellow. And that sets that cell to yellow. So we've covered sorting and the worksheet selection change event. And as always, I will upload the code and the worksheet into a Google Drive that I'll put a link in the description. If you've learned something, I'd appreciate a subscription. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on VBA Made Easy.